A former National Party spin doctor says Christopher Luxon should resign because he's not up to it. They say he's worse than Jacinda Ardern. Also tonight, the fallout from Donald Trump and JD Vance's extraordinary attack. The attack on President Zelensky. Why this changes the world and how it affects us here in New Zealand. So let's go.
Are we paying these people to front up, or are we paying them to fly to Wellington to eat their lunch? Should you really lose your career for refusing to take part in a 90-minute lesson about Māori culture? This government doesn't actually have any idea how to get economic growth. Show us what you made of, Prime Minister.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, you're with the Editor-in-Chief. Welcome. Good to have you here. I'm Duncan Garner. Good to have you there. Subscribe, please. Please subscribe. That's where we get our numbers from, and we really appreciate it. But I lost the bet. I said we wouldn't get to 10,000 subscribers, and we have. What is it, Isaac? 11,000?
Yeah, we're just over 11,000 at the moment, which is fantastic.
Which means?
Thank you very, very much.
Which means?
Which means it's time for you to do 30 push-ups.
Okay, 30 push-ups. I said we wouldn't get there. We will. So let me just do them. I'll be back. Hang on. Here we go. Hope you can see this. 30 press-ups. Oh,
this will be fantastic for our audio listeners. We've got another shot from producer Lachlan as well, so that you can get a nice close-up of Duncan doing 30 push-ups. I don't think Lockie can hear me, but how's he doing, Lockie?
13. He's good pace. We're at about 15.
That's good.
1, 3, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
There he is.
Who needs a gym? You just need to lose bets on your own show.
Okay, that was 30. That's not
Well
a bad
done.
effort. Yeah, you got to talk to me so I get my breath back. You got to talk to me. Have you
So we've just gone over 11,000. What's our next goal? Is it 15 or 20?
Let's go 15.
20,000.
Thanks, Lockie. Let's go 15,000.
15,000?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. And then if you do that, are you going to do 50 push-ups?
We need to get to 15 by the end of this month.
End of this month. Oh, I'd say that's very doable.
Okay.
That's 4 weeks to get 5,000 subscribers or 4,000 subscribers.
Yeah. That's 1,000 a week.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to go for it.
I reckon we can do it.
If we don't get to 15, I'll do 50.
Nice. Good on you.
If we don't get to 15, I'll do, yeah, that's fine. Anyway, please subscribe.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
I never thought former National Party spin doctor Matthew Hooton would say it out loud, but he has, saying that Christopher Luxon is no longer up to the job as the head of the National Party and the Prime Minister. He's got to go. For the sake of the party, he says he's got to go. Which interests me too, because he says he's worse than Jacinda Ardern. Astonishing. Worse than Jacinda Ardern. We'll talk shortly with the two commentators, Matthew Hooton and Ashley Church. And the consensus of the West collapses in the Oval Office. The Trump card was played, and he's put a war criminal ahead of his old allies. So how is New Zealand affected? We'll look at this. Get in touch with our social media at Duncan Garner Podcast on TikTok, Instagram, and fix an email at duncan@rover.nz. Subscribe, of course. So let's go.
It's the Slam Dunk.
Okay, I thought Donald Trump's and JD Vance's humiliation of Ukrainian President Zelensky was just appalling. The super rich and super powerful demanding that the battered and bruised and war-fatigued Ukrainian hero show more gratitude for America's so-called support. Say thank you, they said. It was brutal. It was a brutal confrontation in the Oval Office that's ever been seen by the public. This was unprecedented. It was a public dressing down, an arrogant in-your-face challenge when international class diplomacy was needed. America served up two A-grade arseholes who put the boot into Zelensky so hard it took shell shock to a whole new meaning. Really did. Have a look at this.
You have a damn good chance of coming out okay because of us.
Mr. President, we are staying in our country, staying strong from the very beginning of the war. We've been alone, and we are thankful. I said thanks
you haven't
in
been
this
alone.
cabinet.
You haven't been alone.
In this cabinet.
We gave you, through
I
this
said
stupid president, $350 billion.
You voted
we gave
for
you
your
military
president.
equipment,
You
and you
voted
men
for
are
your
brave,
president.
but they had to use our military.
What about
if you didn't have our military equipment, if you didn't have our military equipment, this war would have been over in 2 weeks.
So the world watched and was stunned, and seasoned politicians in Washington stood up and bravely condemned the president with words saved for the worst of the worst.
Let's just cut to the chase. The president of the United States is a coward who is Vladimir Putin's puppet. And the vice president of the United States is a pogue and a coward who is Donald Trump's puppet. And so what we just witnessed was a meeting in the Oval Office between two cowardly puppets and a hero.
Congressman, I wonder if you think that President Zelensky could have handled it differently, the way that some of his European counterparts and Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer did, and perhaps been more deferential to Trump and Vance.
Deferential to what? Deferential to a president who allowed a deal in his first term to crumble because Putin just violated it? Deferential to a vice president who didn't even bother to visit Ukraine? I hardly know anyone in Congress who has any view on national security who hasn't been to Ukraine during this war. Deferential to a draft dodger who's our commander-in-chief? Zelensky doesn't deserve to be deferential to anyone in that Oval Office. In fact, I kind of wish he'd put them in their place a little bit stronger. The vast, vast majority of my Republican colleagues in Congress completely agree with me. They know the truth here. They're just too scared to say it themselves.
Now, our Prime Minister was, again, timid in his response. He's walking a tightrope, of course. We back Ukraine, but we don't want to upset the others, I suppose, as well. So we say not much. Because what if Chinese warships come our way? We might need America, and can we still rely on them? I'm not sure we can. I don't think we can at all. And that should worry all of us, because these events have changed the world as we know it. Just have a look at what's happened. This confirms that three big, powerful men now run the world. Trump, Xi Jinping, and Putin. The war criminal who now seemingly has Trump doing some of his dirty work. A man who invaded a country and murdered innocents. He should be at the War Crimes Tribunal, not sitting at the table with America doing a deal on Ukraine while Ukraine waits for the invite. This week, America voted with Iran and voted with North Korea to back Russia. It's 100 years of consensus gone. Putin will be laughing and licking his chops at the collapse of the West in the past 24 hours. He can do anything now because, well, he just has, and he's got away with it. America used to be able to be relied upon, to turn up and front up, and consistently we knew what side they were on. It was the right side of things. But now that consistency and reliability has been shattered. Europe is reeling because the security blanket of America has been pulled off them. So they're regrouping, wondering what it all means. Where to now? World agreements, tribunals, unions, all sorts of international protocols designed to uphold international law and trade and rules. So good guys like us, little guys, don't get railroaded. They mean nothing now because the three men are in charge, because the rules have changed. And the big three, they're making the rules now. Trump will do what's best for Trump, I reckon. Now, I've been to the White House Oval Office twice. First time was when Helen Clark met George Bush. Second time, John Key met Obama. I've sat in there. I've thrown questions. I've been where they were. I've been shut down and escorted out. They never go the way it just went. That was by design. For a start, they're called sprays, where the two leaders get together. Okay, it's highly stage managed. It's quick. You're allowed to get them talking briefly about their meeting. They pass a few inane comments. You try and get some questions. You're shut down and you get walked out of there. So that diplomatic embarrassments and tricky moments are avoided. Once I threw a question in there to George Bush, and he told me he liked my suit. There was enough time to get us out the door, basically, when they ushered us out. But Trump and his people staged that Oval Office assault on Zelensky. It was a play to domestic Americans to show them that, well, we've got your back. And it was a play to the world to show them there's a new sheriff in town making things up and making his own rules. I thought it was unnecessarily reckless. Now he watches its piece back together, if that is at all possible. Good luck.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, so let's talk about this, talk about Europe, talk about America, and we'll talk about Christopher Luxon's ongoing issues around leadership and his image issues after that dreadful train wreck interview with Mike Hosking. Where is he at now? So let's go to Matthew Hooton, former National Party spin doctor and businessman and property commentator. Ashley Church, also political commentator, I think, too. Great for you guys to join us. Really appreciate your time. Thanks, Ashley. Thanks, Matthew. Ashley, I'll kick it off with you. Trump. Are we seeing a sort of a complete realigning of the world order here? Everything's changing.
Yeah, it's interesting you should ask. There's a thing in American politics at the moment called TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. You guys will have heard of it, and it's predominant within the Republican Party, and it's a way of basically castigating anybody on the left who takes issue with anything that Trump does. And to be fair, there's some validity to it, because there's a sort of an orange man bad syndrome that operates within American left-wing politics, which basically says that if it comes out of Trump's mouth, it's wrong. The corollary of that, though, the flip side of that is that there's something that I term TAS, which is Trump adulation syndrome, and it operates on the right. And it's this idea that regardless of what comes out of Trump's mouth, it's always going to be absolutely correct, and the guy can never make a mistake in a sort of messianic way, scrawled on marble scrolls or tablets. And so you've got this really contrasted situation that exists at the moment, where your view of him and your view of what he's doing with the world order depends entirely on your political perspective, which has always been true, but in a way which is probably more true now than it's ever been. And that's really exemplified in what's currently happening in the Ukraine. And particularly in that interview that took place in the White House a couple of days ago between Trump and Vladimir Zelensky and JD Vance, and I think Rubio was there as well. And that cluster, basically, which took place. And so if you support Trump and you're in that Trump adulation syndrome, you would look at that and you'd say it's fantastic. He's a smart man. He's realigning the international order. He's come up with a solution which basically meets American security needs while avoiding war. And if we're on the other side of that, you would say, here we go again. This is just Neville Chamberlain, 1939, and his attitude toward the invasion of the Sudetenland by the Nazis, and coming back with this piece in our Time piece of paper, or slightly later than that, the Yalta Agreement, where the Russians and the Americans and the Brits basically carved up Europe into east and west. So your view, my view personally, is I think this is his first major strategic mistake, and that the effect of this is going to be either that this is actually going to exacerbate the situation, or, and maybe this was his plan all along, that that Europe's going to step up and actually start spending more money on security and pick up the slack that America is going to basically leave by pulling out of that situation. So that's not really an answer to your question. It's more a reflection of the reality. But
it's a good scene setter, because and I'll bring you in here, Matthew, and I'll come back to you on this one, Ashley. But if you look at the facts, which are he failed to condemn Russia. He had a chance to vote against them, and he voted against them. He voted against his central bloc. He voted with Russia. He voted with North Korea.
And he's also harping back to both him and the other parties are harping back to a 1992 agreement between James Baker, who was the Secretary of State under the Bush administration, which promised what was then the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, that NATO would go not 1 inch further if Gorbachev acceded to the western and eastern portions of Germany reuniting. That was 24 odd years ago, longer.
And it was only a comment.
32 years ago.
Giving that status is wrong. I mean, it's a bit like some of the things that were said around the Treaty of Waitangi in New Zealand. Totally. I mean, things that are said at the signing ceremony. That Baker statement has no particular status.
No, but if you look at what you look at what happened in the White House.
It's gone 1,000 miles further east since that time, anyway.
Yeah. Look at the White House. Look what happened in the White House, the Oval Office, and I've been in there. I've been at those sprays, and I know how managed they are. They're quick. You're out there within a few minutes. They don't go on like that. That was by design, Matthew. I think that was staged.
Yes, I think it was. I mean, I doubt that the president would have allowed the vice president to speak in that way unless it was prearranged.
Well,
I doubt the vice president would have dared. So correct. Yes, it was clearly staged to. And as you say, if this was a Democrat who cast the United States' vote in the United Nations alongside Russia and Iran and North Korea, and against NATO and against Japan and against South Korea and against Australia, again, what would you be saying? You'd be saying that person is a communist spy. That is a Russian spy.
Yeah.
And the Republicans would be right in saying
conversely,
that president was a Russian spy. And so what does that say about what Trump is?
Yeah. And to take that a step further, conversely, if Trump had taken exactly the opposite view and had come out and said, we need to engage in this war, we need to invest more money, Putin's evil and bad, and this is a fight for the future of civilization, all of those Trump supporters would have got on side with that and said, yeah, great, we agree, it's exactly the right thing. And this is where this whole Trump adulation
and to be fair to the Democrats would have supported the president had he done that, right? Yeah. So it is a problem on both sides, but it's particularly and I know what I am. I'm Gen X. I'm a right-wing Gen X. I'm Reagan and Thatcher.
Yeah.
How can someone claim to be a right-wing Reagan Thatcher neoliberal, whatever you want to call us, and then support Trump.
No,
it just doesn't make sense.
I mean, you're supporting terrorism.
Yeah.
You're supporting butchering. You're
supporting
supporting war.
the people
This guy should be in the
against.
War Crimes Tribunal.
So
he should never sit at the table discussing Ukraine's future.
Having said that, I think the Ukrainian president did make a mistake. He was apparently advised by people close to Trump, Trump's envoy to Ukraine, that it was probably not time for a meeting.
Yeah.
He decided to do the meeting anyway. He folded his arms and looked defensive. And
he's been let down in many ways.
And I think that this deal, I mean, it's dodgy as all hell. Of
course,
right? It gives the United States basically control over Ukraine's minerals.
Yeah.
However, that is in a sense a security guarantee, because if the United States has that type of control over the wealth of Ukraine, then there's no way that Trump would then let Putin invade Ukraine.
No.
So I think that perhaps the Ukrainians should have reflected on it just a couple more weeks before reaching the position on that deal.
I genuinely agree with that, with one exception. So I agree that it does give a form of security guarantee, but it's being cast at the moment as this fixes the problem and basically creates peace, whereas Ukraine joining NATO is somehow going to exacerbate the problem and create World War III. In fact, both things probably would achieve the same result.
Yes, but with Trump, everything's going to be dodgy and unusual.
Yeah.
And I think that in engaging with them, you have to accept that and respond accordingly. And there is a method to the madness. I mean, he wants NATO to increase its spending.
Correct.
It is increasing its spending. I think we also have to remember that the United Kingdom and France are nuclear powers, and thank God for that, despite New Zealand's antics over Mururoa over the years, because, and essentially France always said those nuclear weapons were to defend themselves as much from Britain and Germany in the long run, or Russia as from anyone else.
Yeah.
So Europe, if it does step up, it does have nuclear weapons. It is able to defend itself. It is able to establish mutually assured destruction with Russia if it invests further in its nuclear deterrent and in its conventional forces. And so Trump would say, well, that's what I promised
but
my voters.
They've had 100 years, almost 100 years of this security blanket, if you like, actually. They've had the security blanket of America that's been
80 years. And at some point,
there with them.
And at some point, if you are the Americans, let's forget about the Americans. If you're the Europeans, you would be wise to think, look, it just isn't credible that a great power from another continent is going to provide us with security forever.
Yep.
And it's been 80 years.
But it's the way it's been done. It's how it's been done.
Yeah, but maybe to be fair to Trump, I mean, or not even be fair, just try and analyse it professionally. From the point of view of the Europeans, they should have moved earlier and worked out that one day this was a risk to their security, and they have been lazy.
They've been
as we have in this part of the world.
We totally have.
Yeah.
Just while we're on this,
we need to be careful. Sorry, Duncan, just going to say we need to be careful though not to draw this sort of fairy tale view of the last 80 years as being this time of benign peace. It's been a period of, with all due respect and apologies to those who might be offended by this, it's been a period of complete stuff ups by the United States in respect of its attempts to change the global power and the global order. And I used the example before, and it was kind of the starting point for it of the Yalta conference. And so that was the conference toward the end of World War II that was between Stalin representing Russia, Roosevelt representing the States, and Churchill representing the UK. And they basically carved up Europe. They decided, without deference to those individual powers, they decided who was going into the Eastern Bloc and who was going into the Western Bloc. This is kind of the same thing, albeit on a smaller scale because it's only one country. But here we are with Trump deciding we'll take this bit, it'll stay independent, and you can have this bit over here, Putin, and world order is restored.
Can I look at it from a New Zealand perspective? Because we've always thought, okay, so if we get invaded, heavens knows if we get invaded, we're stuffed. If we get invaded, America will come to our rescue. I think this is a confirmation, we already knew this, but it's confirmation that you cannot rely on them now. You cannot say that they'll be here in a hurry.
Well, the New Zealand's
I know that you've been able to rely on them for the last 20 years, to be honest. I think since the dead letter with Longy, that relationship's deteriorated, and I'm not entirely sure that at any stage since 1990 it's been completely guaranteed that they would come to our aid if something happened.
Hey, look, the circumstances that New Zealand's physical security would ever come under threat would imply that Australia had already been conquered or occupied significantly, and they are an ally. And I think in those circumstances there would always, even now, be a security guarantee for New Zealand from the United States. Those circumstances are so unlikely that they're barely worth thinking about.
That's correct. Except what have we seen this week?
But but that is the Chinese telling Australia in particular to keep in its box and doing what all great powers do, which is project power and try and achieve regional and then global hegemony. The Chinese are just doing what a great power will. We in New Zealand are so naive and that we have believed in the rules-based order and liberal institutionalism. And liberal institution and the rules-based order is the best system for a small country. And we should support it completely. But we seem to have thought that it exists on its own account, whereas in fact it has only ever existed backed by American might in a realist foreign international relations framework. And so we should support liberal institutionalism, rules-based, blah, 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 but understand it only exists thanks to the United States of America's nuclear arsenal.
Now, I want to move on domestically to look at Christopher Luxon, who has had, let's say, he's been in the headlines for all the wrong reasons, Ashley. This is a guy, if you've lost Hosking, you've lost everyone, in my view. And all the feedback I get in here is 100% unequivocally negative. I don't, and across the years that I've done this, I see feedback of all sides, right? But on this guy, I do not get anything positive. I just don't.
It's fascinating because for the last 6 months, I've had people increasingly saying to me, this guy's a problem, they need to change him. And for most of that time, the last probably 4.5 of that 6 months, I've continued to defend him on the basis that he would come right, that he would grow into the role, and that he would, he'd come into the role quite quickly after becoming an MP and just give him a bit of time. I've completely changed my view on that now. I'm confident. Confidence the wrong word, but I believe that if we were looking at New Zealand Inc. as a business, I think he's a very capable manager of the business in respect of all the moving parts that make an economy work and make infrastructure work and all that other stuff. And if you get their press releases, which I do, they appear to be doing a pretty good job across a whole range of things that they promised that they would do. The problem that he's got is that there is a performative or a theatrical aspect to the prime ministership that he just ain't got, that he just hasn't got. And up until now, people have been looking at him and saying, I know there's something not quite right, but I don't know what it is. And then the problem he's got is that now that Trump's been elected, there's a whole lot of people on the right going, that's what it is. That's what we want. Do that. And he's not capable of that. So I think he's on borrowed time.
You think he'll be rolled? You think
I do think he'll be rolled. Maybe not in the next couple of months, but I think but before Christmas he'll be gone. And I know Matthew's probably going to disagree with that and say you can't do that during a term of an existing prime minister while it's in government. But I don't think they've got any choice because the consequences of that are one or the other. Either they lose the next election, which would be horrifying, or you end up with a coalition which has got a different distribution of support. More of it goes to ACT and New Zealand First. And less of it sits with National. Either of those is not ideal outcomes for the National Party.
Gone by Christmas, Matthew. I don't think you disagree.
No, I think that's probably right. I mean, I've never thought he was any good. He doesn't seem to be intelligent enough for the role, to be blunt.
It's pretty harsh, isn't it?
But he doesn't seem to be knowledgeable, which is a different thing for the role. He doesn't seem to have any deep knowledge of New Zealand or its economy or of world affairs.
Or interest.
Or interest in it. He seems to not be self-aware, and that he seems to think that he's quite charismatic. I'm told by people who... He believed that he would inspire New Zealanders the way Obama or Kennedy or one of them did. And he believed this. He believed that...
Heavens, he's miles away.
He believed that him becoming... he believed that his own... assumption of the prime ministership would cause business confidence to rise, and he genuinely believed that 2024 would be a strong year of economic growth. So I don't think he's self-aware either.
Who would you see replacing him, Matthew?
Well, I think anyone could do it better than him. I think he's the worst prime minister of my lifetime.
Yeah, but worse than Jacinda Ardern.
Oh, much worse. There were things in the job that she could do.
We disagree on that, but that's a separate issue.
There were things that there were parts of the role that she could do.
She could communicate.
He can't do any of them. There is no program of any magnitude at all. I've just been in Mongolia again. I have a lot. I mean, their new coalition government came in last year, and that time they've got about $5 billion US of foreign investment. There's a big new project. I mean, this guy,
we're fumbling in the dark.
This guy, I mean, we just go. He's worse than just. I mean, he's worse than Jacinda because he's no better than her. when it comes to economic policy. The fiscal policy is as bad as under the previous government.
Well, arguably push us further into recession.
The focus on working groups and we'll spend 3 years reviewing the resource management.
Got time.
I mean, this is ridiculous. Yeah. And I feel a bit sorry. He never had any support or knowledge of the National Party. He never. John Key.
Not only Key, but Key made himself aware of it by going to Bolger and McKinnon and all those guys. Remember this?
And also he challenged Brian Neeson in a safe national seat, and he had to spend 6 months having cups of tea with National Party delegates.
Yeah. And it worked for him.
Key, I would have spent hours with him when he was a backbencher because, he'd spend 2 hours talking to me, and then I'd come out and there'd be some other.
He worked hard.
And
I think the key question, Duncan, is there a scenario under which he could recover his position and he could actually carry on and be a successful prime minister?
How?
And that's the scary. Well, that's the answer to that for me is no, because he would have to become somebody that he isn't. And to take up on Matthew's point about his comparison to Jacinda Ardern, if I was going to give any slack at all to Jacinda Ardern, it would be that she got that performative side of it. She got that theatrical side of it. She understood
almost
that
too
there
much
was
in
an
the
element of needing to motivate and encourage the nation, albeit down a loopy path, but she managed to do it for 5 years.
And also she suffered from imposter syndrome.
Yep.
Which
this guy doesn't.
Which at least shows that Jacinda Ardern had a degree of self-awareness. Yeah. This guy seems to think that Vietnam importers will buy more milk powder or whatever
because he's there.
Because he smiles and waves, and I mean that might have actually been true of Jacinda Ardern, who for better or worse was a global celebrity, and so she smiled and waved and did photo ops. Maybe it could help business people at the margins, but this guy thinking that his personality is going to help.
There's no personality.
It's just ridiculous.
But it's also actually the idea that I think what you said earlier, Matthew, is also correct. He lacks an in-depth knowledge, understanding, and even interest in his own country. I feel like he's here for a short time to see how it goes. Doesn't have a vested interest in this country,
I have the opposite view to that. I think he's too introspective. I don't think he's a stupid man. I actually do think he's reasonably intelligent, but he's intelligent in the way that good CEOs of Air New Zealand are, that they understand their airline. They know what makes a plane work. They know the plane's got to fly on time.
Well, he wasn't good at that. He was a terrible CEO of Air New Zealand. Let's be real. I challenge whether this guy's business credentials count for anything. I see him more as a corporate bureaucrat. He's never risked his capital. It took him an incredible amount of time to move up in Unilever to be a regional sales manager for that company.
So he's a middle manager that's been promoted.
He is the one who decided that he was going to.
That's right.
That's not me. He was the one who decided that he was going to not invest in the business class product. As a result, Air New Zealand has the worst business where the profits made.
Yeah, so you take the risk
of all the airlines that fly in and out. Even Qantas and Delta now have better service at the profit-making end of the plane than Air New Zealand.
Yeah. So putting all of this aside, though, whoever's right and wrong on this, the key thing for the guy is he's lost the room. He's lost the people that he's got to have.
Totally.
He never had it. He only got 38% of the vote, for God's sake, at the election. Jim Bolger, after the mother of all budgets, managed to get 35.
Yeah. And Shipley got 33.
This 38 was a pathetic result for National in the circumstances of deep loathing for the former Prime Minister and a failing economy.
Ashley?
That's true. I mean, in an MMP environment, that's not quite as important for the reasons that I pointed out before, and that is that if he's got strong alliance partners who can pick up that slack, and that is what's happening at the moment. If you look at the majority of the polls, that's not bleeding off to the left. It's going to his coalition partners. It's going to ACT and it's going to New Zealand First. But we've lived in an environment since MMP was introduced in the 90s where National has always been the much stronger partner, and we are potentially looking at a government, unless something changes, where we've got National polling in the low 30s or worse, and ACT sitting at 14 or 15 and New Zealand First sitting at 10 or 11.
Well, we've seen that scenario. We saw that scenario with Helen Clark when Labour was weak and the alliance was strong. Remember this with New Zealand First strong. So we've gone there on the other side.
She could fall because she knew about New Zealand, including its economy. Yeah. Helen Clark, because she knew she was weak in economics, so she learned about its business sector. She knew about politics. She was able to forge some coherence from the cards that were played to her when she had to deal with the alliance and so forth. This guy is unable, I think, to negotiate competently with his coalition
partners. But he said he was a great negotiator, and then we end up with Seymour running the first year of the Parliament with the treaty.
Well, he said that he was an expert in mergers and acquisitions, and I said at the time, and I asked journalists, more prominent, TV political editors, the type of people who can ask these questions. What mergers and acquisitions have you ever worked on?
Yeah.
Because I researched.
There was none.
That was a straight out lie that he had merger and acquisition experience. I don't know why he said it.
But I wonder if he speaks corporate speak and doesn't actually understand. Corporate speak is code for I don't know what's going on here, so I'm going to milk it.
And guess what?
Interestingly, though, because I was one of the parties when the coalition agreements, the two of them first came out at the early stages of this government. I was actually pretty impressed. I remember looking at them and thinking it's not all one cohesive document, but as a combined series of documents, this pretty much ticks all the boxes.
Didn't Chris Bishop do a good job then, and Nicola Willis,
right.
who were in charge of that, because Luxon didn't do that.
It's almost like it was an exercise in making sure that the coalition agreement was put together in a sound way, and then since then it's almost been ignored.
They've made it up. They've made it up. This year they came back and they said, right, we need to do something. Economic growth. I've learned those two words, and they fumbled and stumbled into the words economic growth.
Then there's no
they
program.
had no plan. There's no exactly.
I mean, it's all just. It's not even good PR. It's amateur PR hour, where you just declare this is the year of economic growth, and then
Jacinda.
She said year of delivery without a plan. But he does not. I mean, he literally doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't have a program. He's not able to forge it.
So how do you? Okay, let's finish up by saying this. How do you replace him? Because we've worked out he's no good. How do you replace him? Because we've seen coups. You've probably been part of them, Hooton. We've seen coups. I've reported on many of them. How do you go about replacing him?
That
He's a
will be
sitting prime
happening now,
minister.
Duncan. The numbers are being counted already. Already there is aggravation. But because remember, you've got if they drop their support, there are a large number of MPs currently sitting in seats where a drop in support of the magnitude that we could potentially looking at would mean they'd lose their seats. So you've already got MPs at the moment who are saying, "Hey, I'm in danger of actually losing my seat if this reduction continues." So those numbers will already be being done. And I think that work's already underway.
Who's the candidate? Who is it? Is
well,
it Bishop? Chris Bishop?
I think the transaction costs are extremely high, especially to change a party leader, and especially with a prime minister. So I think they should be extremely cautious. And you would hope that Christopher could be prevailed on to have the self-awareness to know that it's not going well. I doubt he does. There are some polls coming out in the next week or so, including from Courier and the Taxpayers Union, which National can never deny. There is this investment summit that he pushed against the advice of his ministers, against the advice of officials, against the advice of major business people. It is all on him. He said that there would be deals signed, that there would be investable propositions, and I think if the polls are bad and that fails, he's in big trouble. And can I just make one comment?
This is one delivery. This is one thing.
It was his one deliverable. Yep. Can I make one comment about so-called corporate speak? I don't think he speaks corporate speak. Talk to Graham Hart sometime. Talk to Matt Winneray from the Super Fund. Talk to Miles Harrell from Fonterra. They don't talk like that.
No, because they know what they're talking about.
They know what they're talking about. Yeah. And so-called corporate speak is not found in successful corporates or in business people. It is found only
in fakes,
and often in bureaucrats, in the Wellington bureaucracy, trying to talk like business people. But I have worked in business my whole life and in politics. I have never heard anyone speak in politics or in business.
You've worked with good people then.
I've never ever met anyone in business who speaks that way. He is quite unusual, and I think it's because he's unusually unintelligent.
And making it up. The one thing I'd say, when Hoskin was saying it's a sacking, would you have sacked him? He goes, well, demotion. He kept trying to find these words. Why are you doing this?
He could have said no. He could have said no.
I listened to that a couple of times, and I was trying to get my head around what he was trying to do. I thought maybe he didn't want to offend Bailey. Maybe I just think it wasn't within him to actually be able to use colloquial language. I think.
He's gone then. He's gone.
Yeah, I mean, he could have said, yeah, that's right, but he could have said no. He could have said to Mike Hosking, and believe this is possible, as you would know. You can say, look, Mike, I know why you're asking me that question, and I'm telling you, I'm not going to be answering it. It didn't arise as an issue, and I'm not going to be rubbing salt in the wounds by answering your question.
Next question, or I'm out of here.
Yeah. But he can't.
Tough guys do that.
It's all this complete waffle and nonsense.
He's scared.
You see, I can't understand it, except for this. Look, I know this is terribly snobby and unkind, but he went to Christchurch Boys High, I believe, which is sort of an elite school. I went to Auckland Grammar, so I know those types of single-sex academic schools. And he was a complete nerd. He worked hard, model pupil, and he got a B bursary. Now,
that sounds awfully snobby, but
it is snobby. But I didn't have a. The thing is, I mean,
you're saying he's thick.
People like you and I got an A bursary easily without working hard. But what I'm saying is, kids at Auckland Grammar who weren't in the top classes, who worked hard, it would have been impossible for them to get a B bursary. You couldn't get a B bursary. The only way to get a B bursary at a school like Auckland Grammar or Christchurch Boys or Wellington College, this is back in the 80s,
not to show
was
up.
was to be a bit thick and not show up. Right? So I have
high school system.
I mean, I don't want to be unkind about.
It's gone downhill from there.
When to get a B bursary means your average is less than 60% in your
you're
final
50%,
exams. You're 50%.
Yeah.
Duncan, school cert at Tamati High School, so I'm feeling much better about myself.
Well, but this was Christchurch Boys, and this was being a nerd. And
he was very diligent. I understand. Front of the class.
Yeah, whereas there were kids at Auckland Grammar who basically spent the year smoking cannabis and got A bursaries.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's very unkind, but I think we've been unkind anyway. But we're just telling the truth. What we do here is we tell the truth. We just go straight down the barrel. Ashley, we'll leave it there, mate. You've been brilliant again. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Matthew, good man. Okay,
Thank you.
Snobby bastard.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, guys. Cheers.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, some big calls there. Isaac, I want to bring you in here, mate. I'm going to bring you in here because I know you're a young guy fascinated with politics, but those guys have said that Hooton said that he's worse than Ardern. The worst Prime Minister ever. And Ashley said he'd be gone by Christmas. Some big calls. Some good on them making the big calls. That's why we got them in. But, yeah. I'm
very,
with
very
them.
big calls.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think I'd say that our audience tends to agree. I mean, you've seen the feedback that we've gotten. I'd say there is probably not a single positive comment about Chris Luxon.
There's never
in any of our comment sections.
I wonder if he's self-aware.
He obviously doesn't really have the country backing him at the moment.
I don't think he's self-aware. Do you know I'm still struggling to get my breath? Is that 30 press-ups? But it's 30. Hey, if people want to look at it and go and try it themselves, go and try 30 press-ups, see how you go. It's actually a bit tougher than you think.
100% is tough.
I couldn't fail. I had to keep going. Were you impressed? Do you think the brother could do it?
Very impressed. You did it speedy as well, which is cool. You know, that's a skill in itself.
Yeah, but now I'm buggered. Could have a heart attack. Is there a defib in here? Anyway, let's...
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Right, let's get through some feedback because it comes in lots of feedback coming in. So we'll go through this. Hi, Duncan. I am and my whole family are very proud to have a journalist like you in New Zealand. I'm writing to express my deep disappointment regarding my 15-year-old son and his recent experience in his first NZQA English exam. He had prepared extensively for this important milestone, only to face unexpected challenges that left him frustrated and disheartened. The exam required him to write 3 essays, but 2 of them contained Māori words that he did not understand. As a result, he struggled to comprehend the questions and was unable to respond effectively, leaving him feeling helpless and defeated. It was devastating to see my child who had worked so hard feel so discouraged simply because of the language barriers that could have been avoided. I strongly urge NZQA to reconsider how Māori words are incorporated into exams to ensure that all students have a fair and equal opportunity to succeed. Abby. What I would say to that, Abby, is if the Māori words surprised you or surprised your son, then I think you make a good point, because if this is part of the curriculum, then the Māori words, Isaac, you can help me out here because you were at school more recently than I was, but you would have thought that all that stuff would have been learned in class. If you're using it in an exam situation, you would have thought that at some stage through that curriculum year, that would have come up. You know, it shouldn't have surprised anyone.
Yeah. I find that very interesting. I think I never experienced that when I was in high school. Off the top of my head, I don't think there was ever... Because in high school, all the NZs, all the exams, you can get them in either English or in Te Reo. And so I don't think... I mean, I got the English one every time. I don't think that there was ever Te Reo. And if there was, this is the important part, if there was, they would always provide a translation.
Yes, and you would have learned it already anyway. You would have had it in the curriculum.
Yeah, or you would have learned it already, yeah. I mean, I don't know what the curriculum is for English. Maybe he needed to learn those Māori words and he hadn't, who knows. But, if they weren't part of the curriculum and there was no translation provided.
Fair
That
argument.
seems a bit strange to me.
Yeah, I agree, mate. So I'd actually get hold of NZQA if I was you and just say, just seek an explanation for it. Seek an explanation that says, we're adamant he didn't learn these in the curriculum this year, so why are they put here? Just make sure that he wasn't away one of those days where they did learn it, because they might look a bit silly. But certainly I appreciate your email, and I'd follow them up with that. Hi, Duncan. Only recently found your YouTube. So far, so good. Here's some feedback on New Zealand social issues that have covered so far. Rewatching your recent coverage of the Platinum Class Grifter Brigade of Perpetual Victimhood member Ngāti Wapaka in travel joints while being AWOL from work and holidaying overseas. I came across how the Australian Tax Office shows where an individual's taxes were allocated. So I've sent these to you, and we can have a look at these. I hope you'd do a broadcast on the AU tax info, mainly to inform New Zealanders that we should demand a similar fact sheet. I've never seen anything like this from New Zealand IRD. Discuss it with someone from the Taxpayers Union, perhaps. New Zealanders should be given similar information, with addition to of a line by line showing the breakdown of where our money and our taxes are handed out to. Be great if individual MPs' costs to us were itemised. That's from Jacqueline. So have a look at this. This is a statement from the Australian Tax Department that shows that this woman here pays $48,000 in tax, and of that 48 grand, it goes. These are the areas where it goes to. So you see where your tax money goes. Welfare at the top and that sort of thing. I mean, I don't know if it would drive me crazy to realise how much money I was giving and where it goes into all these black holes. You might sort of send you crazy. But I quite like the transparency. I really like the transparency. I think it's good. So thanks for making that point, Jacqueline.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.
Okay, that is us. Thanks for your feedback. Lots of feedback coming in, so don't forget to keep that coming into us. We appreciate your support as well. Get in touch with our social media at Duncan Garner Podcast on TikTok. Also Instagram, or flick us an email, duncan@rover.nz. Those emails are great. And you can, of course, comment on our social media as well. But the emails are great. I love getting them and see what you're thinking. To my team, thank you, guys. We'll do it again tomorrow. Thanks, Isaac. Awesome, mate. Thank you for spending so much time on this and making it really good and making it sing. And remember to subscribe. Well, what are our numbers? 11,000. That's why I did the 30 press-ups.
Yeah, I looked earlier this morning. We were just ticked over 11,000, which is great.
I don't know whether I'm really happy or just buggered as a result. And so if we get to 15,000 by the end of this month, then I'll do 50 press-ups.
There it is. You got it here.
Don't know if it's great. Remember, life's no dress rehearsal. There's no curtain raiser. You're living it. You're in it. This is it. We live in one of the best places on earth, away from all the wars and things, so hopefully no one ever can get us. So get up and enjoy New Zealand. Have a great rest of the day, folks. Ta-da.
Editor-in-Chief with Duncan Garner.